Welcome back to another episode of Dentside Depot. Today we're going to be showing you how to properly prep and then paint a frame. Specifically, we're going to be doing a 1979 F350 frame today as a part of my 12-valve Cummins swap project. Here's all the parts and pieces that you're going to need. First of all, obviously you're going to need a 4-inch die grinder or angle grinder. I prefer to get the cheap Amazon bits. They seem to work really well for me. A couple of these small guys, also from Amazon, the cheapest ones you can. You're going to go to your frame and you're essentially just going to strip it all the way down so it's completely bare. And you can see that's exactly what I've done with this frame here. I have taken all the brackets off because that does help to get everything cleaned off. Makes it a lot quicker, and then obviously you can get paint inside of the frame rails where all of the brackets would be, and that would definitely be an ideal way to go. And that's what I've done on this frame here. So what we're going to be doing next is we're going to be cleaning the frame. And all I do is I just take the KBS Blast cleaning agent and I just mix it in a bottle with some water, and then I just spray down the frame. So let's go and do that here next. All right, so all I'm doing is I'm just going around the frame and I'm just completely coating it with the cleaning agent that I'm using. Whatever you think works the best for you is great, but it definitely needs to be some sort of product that is designed to prep a frame. And I'm just going all the way around, inside and outside. I'm going to be coating the entire frame. And you can see how I've done this frame with all the brackets off. After I wire wheeled the entire frame, I just put those little wire brushes on a drill and I went inside each and every single little hole and I wire wheeled out all of the rust, dirt, and debris and everything else from inside of all of those holes. Now, of course, you could send this off and get sandblasted if you wanted to. That would definitely be another option that could work. Once you have all the brackets out, I don't think it's really... Change my hands here, I'm getting tired already. I don't think it's really a big deal to wire wheel it. It took me about, I don't know, I want to say probably 4 hours to wire wheel the entire frame down. So if you're not willing to put that time investment in, then maybe sandblasting would be better for what you're doing. But for me, it was certainly sufficient. Now you can see on this frame I have it cut out because I am doing a Cummins swap on this truck. So I'm not going to be painting this area, and I will be discussing why in a later video. But there will be welding occurring in that area. And I know what else you're probably thinking, well, why didn't you do all the welding before you're painting the frame? Well, there's a specific reason for that. It's not because I'm skipping a step or being lazy, but there's something I need to do with most of the frame painted first before I can get into welding in that area. So I'm just going to finish up spraying here, and then I'm going to show you how I wipe it down. All right, so the whole frame has been sprayed down. What I like to do next is find a towel or something that you know you're not going to use anymore. An old beach towel or just a bathroom towel or whatever. And I like to go around the entire frame. And you can see you will get some dirt pulled off. And I like to wipe the whole thing down instead of just letting it just sit and air dry. This is what's really worked best for me. And I'll get the whole top here and outer side. Then I'll go inside. And obviously this is going to be way more difficult if you have all the brackets on, and obviously if your truck is still all together. I have the nice convenience here of not only having it all apart, but also having it hanging from a lift. So my job here is way easier than what most people are probably going to have to deal with. So I understand that. Try to get in the big holes with the towel, and now I'll get the bottom. That's it. I'm just going around and just getting everything dried off and cleaned and prepped. Now there is one other step. I'm gonna go to paint next after I have everything wiped down and I let it dry out for a little bit. But there's another step that you can do if you want to. I'm using POR 15, so I don't have to do this step. But some brands of coat framing or frame coating require you can do some metal etching if you like, or if the product that you're using requires metal etching to prime it and everything. That's something I certainly could do if I wanted to here, but I've had a lot of success with the POR 15 by just using the correct cleaner and doing exactly what I'm doing here. The POR 15 for me has had really excellent bite on everything that I've done by just doing this step right here. Well, first the grinding, removing all the scaly rust and all the little rust, and then the final wipe down with the correct cleaning agent. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep going around the frame, getting everything dried off, and I'm just going from back to front here. Then I'm gonna let it sit, clean up the floor a little bit, and then I'm gonna show you how to actually apply the POR 15 and the specific products that I use to do the POR 15 application process. So sit tight and we'll get to that next step here in a second. Okay, so I got the frame completely cleaned and dried off now. One quick tip to help you out is use an air sprayer and just make sure that you tease out all of the liquid in any holes, especially around the front where it's caged in, boxed in. Make sure it's completely dry. All right, so I'm using a mini roller with a 3/8 nap roller, and then I put a little bit of POR 15 in my little bin here. Make sure to stir it before you get going, before you pour it in. Now the key to the first coat is, I like to get my roller filled up here with paint first, and it's a little difficult while I'm trying to hold a camera. But the key with the first coat is you don't want to overdo it. You don't want to go crazy putting too much on. I'm just going to get this started here. There we go. A nice light coat, and I still don't have my roller set up right. There we go. All right. There. That's enough to do a big section. Let's start on the outside here. And you can notice I have a canvas tarp down. If you think you're going to do this job without getting POR 15 in a lot of places, you're kidding yourself. So definitely wear gloves, definitely wear safety goggles, definitely wear long sleeves, and if you're going to be doing this on the ground, make sure you got long pants on too. But you're rolling this out, you're not going crazy with the amount of POR 15 that you're using. This is just the first coat. All right, I'm just getting some material off of the roller here so I can go back and even it out a little bit, because I actually have too much on the roller right now. Also helpful to have a flashlight facing the frame wherever you're working so you can see exactly what you're doing. And I'm just putting a nice light coat on here. I'm not worrying that I can still see the metal a little bit through the POR 15, and honestly, even with this nice light coat, it's pretty much covering all of it. That's all you're looking to do. The first coat is going to use a lot more product than the second coat, and if you choose to do a third coat, definitely a lot more than the third coat. I always do 2 coats. I have 1 quart of paint. I do not have another quart ready to go today. The POR 15 has like doubled in price in the last 3 years on Amazon. It's like $70 a quart now. It's getting crazy how expensive it is, but it's worth it. You know, comparatively, the Summit chassis paint and the spray paint form, you're gonna go through like 8 cans of that stuff to do 1 frame. Then of course you could buy it in regular canned form too. But this is the fun part. I've done all the hard work, everything prepped out, and now I'm just having a nice fun Saturday afternoon here where I'm just putting POR 15 on the frame. A couple weekends of hard work, and this is the big payoff here. I know for many of you this job's going to be not as much fun because you're going to be on your back in the driveway Well, that's just the way it goes. I've done that too. I didn't always have a nice shop. Now I do, and that's, you know, that's great, but this job can definitely be difficult if you're doing it on the truck and in the driveway. I understand all that. Okay, and you can see I'm not going crazy here. I'm just getting it nicely done, and I like to do this. I actually like to start at one end of the truck, work my way forward, do inside and outside as I'm going, so I don't forget. I probably put too much product on again, so I don't forget where I'm at on the frame and miss anything. You want to avoid those little drips I got right there. I'm gonna clean that up in a second. I would highly recommend that you use a 3/8 nap roller for this job. You're not gonna be able to do the whole frame with the roller, but you're gonna be able to get a lot of it done with the little roller here. And you will use less product overall, and I think you get a better finish using the roller as well. You will use way less product using the roller. When you use the brush, I mean, you'll just be dipping that brush in there and filling the frame up with paint, and you're gonna need more than a quart to get the frame done. So I'm just getting the roller in there. I like to do this too, where I just quickly get the edge. And once I have the entire frame done with its first coat, I'm gonna go back with a chipping brush, and I'm gonna make sure that every little hole has been filled in. Because I spent all that time drilling out all the holes to make sure they were clean, so I wanna make sure I get the paint in there. That's really important. Like I said, I like to do this little bits at a time, because if you go and try and do the whole thing at once all over the place, you're gonna forget where you're at and you're gonna naturally miss spots. So I like to keep myself organized here and just do a little section of the frame at a time, switch back and forth on each side so I don't lose my spot. And you can see I'm probably a third of the way up this frame. I've only dipped my brush in the tray twice, and I probably could have done it maybe only once if it wasn't the first time dipping it in. So you're not using a lot of product with the first coat, and you're not putting too much on. You do not want to do that. Do not want to do that. Now, another interesting thing about POR 15 is that it actually uses water to help itself dry. It's actually liquid activated. And I got lucky today. It's the first week in December here in Pennsylvania, and it's warm and it's raining. That's actually the ideal condition. Well, not warm, but it's mild and it's raining. It's actually the best condition for POR 15. It's gonna make this setup really fast, especially compared to a hot summer sunny day. A hot summer sunny day, it'll actually take longer for it to set up and cure than it would on a mild rainy day like today, because the humidity actually encourages the POR 15 to dry and set up. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep working my way to the front of the frame. When I get to the front of the frame here, I'm gonna show you my next trick. I actually use a baby bottle washer to get inside the boxed area. So I'm gonna work my way up there, and then I'll come back on and I'll show you how I do that step. Okay, so I have the whole frame painted all the way up to the front, but now we run into an issue. How do you get inside the portion where it's boxed in from each side? Well, I have a special little trick that I have, and it's actually a little foam baby washer, bottle washer I got off Amazon. You can get a 3-pack for like 10 bucks. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna get some POR on it here, like so. It's gonna be a little messy, and it should be able to fit in. There we go. Get our brush and get the drips. Try and get that paint in there. There we go. A lot easier when I'm not holding a camera. And now my goal is I want to get this baby bottle washer all around inside of the boxed area. Now, you're not going to get it all. It's not going to happen. It's just not possible. But as long as you can get some, or at least a good portion, what I'm going to do is show you. I'm just going to take my chipping brush, and again, this is a little difficult holding the camera and trying to do it at the same time. I'm better at this than what I'm doing right here, but I'm just going to load it in. Just going to load the paint in with my chipping brush. Try and get some in there too. All right, I got some in. I'm not worried about it dripping right now because I'm still on my first coat. And if you're like really crazy about, you want it to be perfect, you can sand the POR also. All right, so I'm just getting as much as I can with what I have it in the current position, and then I can switch it out later. Just trying to get the paint in there. This is where you can see wearing gloves is definitely pretty important. All right. Just try and keep my drips from getting too crazy here. And I'm just trying to get as much of the product in and around inside that I can. There we go. Up at the top. Now I did go around the whole frame and I used the chipping brush to fill in the holes. I would also recommend that you do that before your final coat because you might get some runs. In addition, chipping brushes will leave tiny little hairs. You can see one right there. If you really want your frame to be absolutely perfect and you don't want to see any of those hairs, you either need to pick those off or you can use a foam brush instead. That will also work. I just like getting the chipping brushes from Amazon because they're cheap, but I have the foam brushes too. Whatever you can to make it work. And I'm just loading the paint in there. Getting it all around. Now I am going to have another step at the end of the video that I'm going to do to add additional protection inside of the boxed area, but this is really it. Just a little bit of patience. Keep loading the paint in, keep moving the baby washer bottle around the best you can. I'm gonna get it from the back in here, and I'm gonna get it from the front in here. And just as a reminder, the reason I don't have the frame painted in some spots is because I do have some more fabrication work to do. And the reason that it's not done yet is because I need to keep the integrity of the frame as it is before I put in a couple of pieces that are actually going to be bolt-in. I'm going to be doing some stuff on this truck that you wouldn't normally see in one of those products is still in prototype. So I'm not crazy. There is a reason for the way it's being done. And the one's actually going to bolt right here, so I have to have this portion painted and the front portion painted. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep getting my box portions painted in here the best I can, and then I'll touch up this as a part of the first coat. It's drying really fast today because of the weather conditions. Again, the moisture actually helps cure POR 15. Why it does that, I have no idea, but that's how it works. So I'm going to get this, the front and the other sides, and then I'm going to come back to show you what the second coat looks like. I topped off a little bit for using the foam brush here. But I still have more than half of my quart of paint left. And by the way, this is a Supercab frame, so it's a large frame. Okay, we'll be back when we do the second coat. Okay, we're back. I have everything cut in the front. And believe it or not, because of the atmospheric conditions today, this is only like less than 2 hours later. It's already pretty much ready for paint. Again, you can see this is where I started. It's not even tacky. It's not even leaving any mark. So that's ready to go. I think the instructions say 2 to 6 hours for your next coat. This is slightly less than 2 hours, but because it's a rainy, mild temperature day here, it's very fast drying. So I'm doing the same thing again. I got a new nap roller. I would start with a new one because they wear out after a while here. So start with a new nap roller, and you're just doing the same thing that you did before. Except now you're going to realize that it's a whole lot easier. After it's been cut in the first time, this is going to go much quicker than it did the first coat. First coat, you're gonna have to put a little bit more pressure than you are the second coat. But I can tell you, I am, with what I just poured in the tray here, I used 2/3 of a quart, and I'm confident that's gonna get me all the way through this frame. Front to back, top to bottom, all the cutting in and out, everything. I'm gonna be good. That's 2 coats. If I wanted to do 3 coats, I'd probably still be good. I'm just gonna do 2 though, because I'm getting really good coverage here with what I have thus far. Now, the big challenge with the second coat is it's really easy to forget where you're at. So the way I like to do it is actually stay on the inside or the outside of whatever side you're gonna start and work your way all the way up to the front. Then move your stand where you have your paint and switch to the other side and move yourself all the way back and then go back up the other side. And I'm just remembering, telling myself in my head, okay, what I've done here is the total inside, and then when I do the outside, it's going to mean the top and the bottom underneath, and I'm going to have to remember to also cut in the corners here. I'm probably going to go back and do that in a second. But you can see this is going to go very, very fast with the second coat. It does not take a lot of effort. And I can already tell you I'm going to be very pleased with how this frame looks. Another nice thing about the POR is it does a really nice job of covering up imperfections in the frame. And that is certainly going to be the case with this frame. Although it's a nice frame, it's definitely going to cover it up. And see that? I already forgot where I was. I think it was right here. So that's why the second coat can definitely be tricky. So this really isn't anything groundbreaking here. I do have another trick that I'm going to show you, but we're going to wait until the frame is completely dry. Just one more thing you can do to get yourself a little bit more coverage, and I'm going to use a different product. So I'm going to finish up this second coat here today. It's not going to take me, I think, more than 10 minutes. It's going to go very well. That's probably too fast. 30 minutes at the most. I'll be done the second coat, but you can see how fast it's going. And then I'm going to cut back to the next day. 24 hours later, I'm going to show you the results of these 2 coats of POR 15 and how they look at the end. And then I'm going to show you one more trick that can really help your frame turn out the best it can without spending a ton of money here on materials and whatnot. Okay, so we're going to cut to the next day here. Okay, so it is the next day, and you can see the frame looks nice and glossy. And yep, I got a little bit of POR 15 on my hand. That's why you always want to wear gloves. But if you didn't know any better, you would think this frame is powder coated. I have full confidence that it's going to have good adhesion and stay on the frame. Now the last little trick I want to show you is here inside the boxed in portion that you can't get to. What I'd recommend that you do, because you probably will have some areas you didn't get, is take your can of Summit chassis paint and just stick the nozzle in there and just spray it back and forth. Other side, spray it back and forth. The goal is that you want to get good paint coverage on every part of the frame. Also, really the most important part is up here in the frame horns. You want to spray it down and up in there. Maybe use rusty metal primer first and then hit it with the chassis paint, and you want that to be really well covered, because that's where you're going to get the most amount of rust, is in this area right here where all the water drains down and sits. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of how to prep and paint and finish up a 1979 Ford frame. This process would really apply to any truck, but that's how I do them on these trucks in particular. Please remember to like and subscribe, and we will see you on the next episode.